Wherever Brian Flores goes, great X's and O's follow, and this Vikings defense will make your damn head spin. A chaos connoisseur, Flores believes in dictating the pace of play through pressure, providing poisonous looks pre and post snap. Last season, the Vikings led the league in blitz percentage, attempting to bail out an undermanned secondary. This could only last so long though, as teams found ways to attack it with the barrage of deep bombs. Retooling in the offseason, Flores now has the personnel to get creative, adapting the back end to play a quarters matchup scheme, but keeping up the pressure with his characteristic blitz. Quarters coverage has become increasingly common in the NFL over the last half-decade, so it's important to understand its philosophy and mechanics before we get to Flores' chaos version. The aim of quarters coverage is to keep passers hesitant and limit their ability to drive the ball downfield, forcing the check down and allowing the defense to rally. This is achieved by out-leveraging your opponent, using space to your advantage to man-match ever-complex offensive systems. Quarters starts from a two-high shell, with each position having its own responsibilities. The easiest are the corners, manning up the number one receiver to their side, unless he goes underneath, in which case they drop to play a deep quarter zone. The safety and overhang player, played mostly by a nickel or linebacker, will both be keying on the two receiver to their side. If the number two goes out, the overhang is going to try to catch him to disrupt the route, then match him to the flat. If he goes vertical, he'll again look to bump the release and slow him down, carrying him to the safety who will take him vertical. If he goes inside, he'll try to wall him off before delivering him to the mic and looking for the running back going to the flat. The safety has the leverage to take the two vertical, but if he stays at the underneath level, he's now got the freedom to cheat over to the one and help double if he goes vertical, or look for crossers coming from the other side of the field. The mic is then responsible for the three and is able to exchange responsibilities with the overhang defender on a bump call if the three goes fast to the flat. These assignments are then mirrored on the other side of the formation. This keeps everything in front of you as a defense, combating deep shots with leverage and creative route concepts with clever pass-offs. But sending just four is far too passive for Flores, who wants to create chaos with pressure. Instead of having someone responsible for the three, he'll blitz that player, rotating to form two triangles of coverage. If you blitz five, most protection rules will require a back or tight end to stay in, negating the lost defender, and if they don't, well, the QB better make a decision and fast. These triangles can then be played in two different ways: quarters coverage like we just explained, or its cousin, palms, which we'll get to in a minute. Using quarters here with the five-man pressure, the entire line will rush, with the corners keying on the ones and the safeties and overhangs on the twos. At the bottom of your screen, you'll see Shaq Griffin stay on Jennings on the square out. Byron Murphy will then carry Kittle to the safety, and then sit ready to cut off the dig route looking back to the QB. At the top, the Niners run a switch release which changes the numbers, but the Vikings handle it well. Harrison caps Ayuk and is ready for his deep dig, Gilmore drops to guard the sticks with the one staying shallow, and Bennett allows Debo the flat on 3rd and long, dropping to muddy the dig window to Ayuk. There's nothing open for Purdy, and by the time he looks to his check down, the pressure is home. With 5 men with their hands in the dirt, the Niners are forced into big-on-big protection. And if you've watched our Pass Pro video, you know this is deeply susceptible to stunts. Tillery shows great vet smarts to lock the arm of the right guard on his rip move, leaving him unable to release, creating a clean gap for Van Ginkel to stunt into, collapsing the pocket. In palms coverage, you're looking to create the same triangle as quarters, but with everyone keying on the number 2 receiver. Corner's got his eyes on the 2, not the 1 this time, and if he works outside, he'll clamp down to cover him, protecting the flat and forming a pseudo cover 2. If the 2 goes vertical or inside, he'll get his eyes to the 1 and cover him instead. The inside man on the triangle is again reading the 2. He's gonna try to wall off the quick hitter angle, then guard him. If he goes out, he gets his eyes to the 1, looking for him coming inside. If the 2 goes vertical, he's gonna look to reroute him and carry him off to the safety, hooking into the zone and looking to cut off the dig and work to the checkdown. The safety has the leverage, so he'll deal with the deep stuff if the 2 goes vertical. If the two goes out, the one is clamping down. So the safety uses his leverage to get over the top of the one and man him up. Here, Tank Dell is trying to work to the flat fast, and assuming he has the same quarters look as before, Stroud fires quickly. But in palms, the ageless wonder Stephon Gilmore is downhill fast for the tackle. So you've probably noticed that these coverages look incredibly similar. And that's exactly the point. Not only do you have to deal with 5 rushers, you have to work out where the 5th rusher is coming from. Then work out if the defense is playing quarters or palms, or a mixture of both. Because there ain't nothing stopping you from calling quarters one side and palms on the other. Here's an example of that against Houston. Again, they send the 5-man line, and at the bottom of your screen, the triangle will play quarters, and at the top, palms. In the palms triangle, Shaq Griffin scares Stroud away from the flat by getting ready to clamp down on the tight end. He looks to reload to Diggs, but the safety has leverage on anything long, and Josh Metellus has done a great job to keep dropping, getting in the way of the passing window to the deep spot. Moving to the quarter triangles at the bottom, Gilmore gets a good matchup with Nico Collins, and with the tight end staying in to block, he's got safety help inside and a dropping backer to muddy the dig window. Stroud goes through his progressions, but the 5-man rush gets an end mismatched on the tight end, and there's far too much chaos to get this to his checkdown. Here it is again against the Giants, where it shuts everything down in the red zone. With palms to the top of your screen and quarters to the bottom, Jones has nowhere to go on his initial 2 reads, and when he looks backside, it's equally as muddy. The 5th man in the rush is Pace, the linebacker this time, and Singletary does a really nice job in pass pro. But the alarms go off for Jones when he can't find anything and has to roll out and settle for minimal yards on the sideline. With coverages looking so similar, it's real easy to misread and miss the cheap yards. Here, Purdy thinks he's looking at palms, but it's actually quarters, and he's incredibly lucky this corner route wasn't picked off. And even in a game where he played pretty well, these coverages were making Purdy hesitate, with a masterful play here by the Vikings and a great bit of teaching from Flores. It's a 2x3 alignment with Debo motioning from I, and they've got palms over the 3 and quarters to the backside. Blake Cashman is part of the quarters triangle backside, but with the 2 not releasing and the 1 going long into bracketed coverage, he's free of responsibility, so gets his eyes to Purdy and looks to cheat the checkdown. Purdy is a beat late getting to juice, and Cashman flies in front but can only deflect the ball, sending it pinballing off 3 players before it lands in the midst of Metellus. We've been looking at even split offenses so far. That's 2 players either side of the center. But these coverages would be short numbers-wise if a team were to use trips or 4-strong formation. Fortunately, Flores has answers there too. Going back to his quarters roots, he'll use a modified version of poach coverage, locking the corner in man-to-man on the single receiver side, and cheating the safety and backer over to deal with any crossers or vertical routes attacking the half field. Here, Gilmore locks onto Kittle. Cashman has juice on the crosser, and the triangle has Ayuk and Debo dealt with, leaving Purdy to have to escape a collapsing pocket and just get the yards available. Here it is again against the Niners bunch formation. Gilmore locks to Ayuk on the single side. Harrison and Pace cheat over to play the 3, and a palms triangle deals with the rest. Purdy looks to get to his checkdown, but once again, the rush beats him to it. Sending 5 forces big on big blocking, and its weakness to stunt, again, ends the play. Much like basketball, the man setting the pick is the most dangerous, and Cashman's perfectly executed pick leaves him unguarded as both the tackle and guard focus on the stunt, leaving a clean lane to the QB. And here it is versus Houston. Gilmore's on the solo side once more and is the perfect candidate to lock backside, and Harrison Smith will poach over so far, he's basically playing center field. The 5-man rush into the play-action concept gets a defensive end on a tight end one-on-one. And Jonathan Grenard gives Cade Stover his welcome to the NFL moment. If this seems confusing to y'all, you can understand why these quarterbacks are so flustered. And we haven't even gotten to the pre-snap disguising and mixing in other coverages yet. This 5-man pressure quarters look has been their early down system, but they also mess with the quarterback's reads by playing lots of cover 2 and regular quarters. If you're expecting this blitz-heavy look and suddenly it's just normal quarters, the QB's eyes are slowed. And as always, hesitancy in the NFL is the death of an offense. They also use a lot of cover 2 and Tampa 2 as a changeup. And again, this has the effect of slowing down a quarterback's reads, forcing them to take the check down. Underneath space is far more compact in the cover 2 as well, meaning quick checkdowns aren't as easy to find. Here, the Vikings send Harrison Smith off the edge and rotate the coverage to create a Tampa 2. And look at the effect it has. There's no one open underneath, and even if there had been, the non-traditional rush caused a busted protection assignment and Stroud's down for the immediate sack. And now for the real killer, Flores' love of the cover 0 pre-snap disguise. Leaving the middle of the field completely open, Flores will bring everyone up to the line of scrimmage and leave his corners playing way off, creating a defense that looks completely flat. It's really difficult to work out who's going to rush, who's going to drop, and what they might drop into. In Flores' true 0 look, everyone on the line will start to rush to create a free man off the edge, before certain interior rushers, who were only needed to force the line to slide, drop into hot route windows, trying to disrupt passing lanes. On the back end, they'll play man match, with certain players banjoing the coverage between each other. On this snap, Gilmore is locked onto Collins, but the outside corners will play banjo, playing the receiver by release. The aim of true 0 is to force mistakes and hurry quarterbacks. The defense can always send one more than the offense can block, so you can force the offense into making a quick decision. Teams will often try to mitigate it by throwing fast, but here, Harrison Smith is in the passing window early, and Stroud ends up grounding. Just showing 0 is enough to get the ball out fast, even if your intention is to fully drop. The Giants try to beat the 0 look from empty, but the Vikings were bailing too, and a fast rally holds Neighbors to 4. And this is the big dilemma for offenses this year. Just because they're showing 0 doesn't mean they're actually blitzing. It's a 0 show here, but they'll actually drop out with the corners rotating to become the deep halves of a cover 2. Purdy does a good job to scan and ID the coverage, but he's too late to the post, and he's lucky he can't drive this due to pressure, or it probably had been picked off. And here's my favorite of the bunch, show 0, drop to quarters. Only 4 rush despite the look, and watch Harrison Smith bail all the way from the line to become the deepest man in the quarters coverage. Daniel Jones wisely checks it down on 3rd, and that's exactly what they want. When you've got the ability to match up on the back end, bring pressure on all 3 downs, and disguise what coverage you're in, you're gonna have these quarterbacks scramble. Flores' ability to teach complex X's and O's and get his players to buy into his ideas is magnificent, only matched by his ability to innovate and adapt to changing league trends. I get kind of worried that if we can work out these schemes, then NFL coaches definitely know what's coming. But I've seen enough tape to know that Flores will continue to adapt when teams find gaps and keep these coordinators on their toes.